In-depth news, 17th of March 2024, China-India intensifying geopolitical conflict in the Indian Ocean. China is pursuing a well-thought-out plan developed 30 years ago to control the Indian Ocean as part of her campaign to station Chinese Navy ships in the region. An agreement for military aid was reached earlier this month between China and the Maldives. The Indian military has begun to leave the islands. At the same time, China, Russia, and Iran are all conducting war games in the Indian Ocean. Even though the geopolitical struggle in the Indian Ocean is becoming more intense, this could help the region's economy grow rather than lead to hostilities. The Maldives, a strategically important island nation in the Indian Ocean that chose a leader China leader late last year, saw the departure of about 89 Indian military personnel. India negotiated a humanitarian assistance pact with the previous pro-India leadership, and as a result, about 70 military soldiers were stationed on the island. But as of right now, China owns 36 islands in the Maldives. Following his election in September of last year, President Mohammad Morsi requested that India remove its soldiers. Afterwards, he consented to having a group of civilian workers oversee the island program. Meanwhile, on March 14, the South China Morning Post, SCMP, claimed, citing sources from China's defense ministry, that a group from the People's Liberation Army had visited and met with President Morsi in Male, the capital of the Maldives, on March 13. The Chinese statement did not refer to the AG. Still, it stated that the Maldives visit was part of a three-nation tour that included Nepal and Sri Lanka, two of India's neighbors, to boost defense cooperation with Beijing. The Chinese statement claims that the new deal with the Maldives is not intended for a third party but is a component of normal cooperation between the two nations. The Chinese statement claims that the new deal with the Maldives is not intended for a third party but is a component of normal cooperation between the two nations. On March 15, SCMP reported that China had declared plans to hold 5-day joint military drills with Iran and Russia in the Indian Ocean, close to the Gulf of Oman. According to a Chinese statement, the military drill's goal is to jointly maintain regional maritime security. The most recent drills take place amid escalating hostilities in the Red Sea, where Houthis in Yemen, supported by Iran, have assaulted mostly Western and Indian ships that are aiding Hamas in its conflict with Israel and Gaza. China has not publicly denounced the Houthi strikes, but according to the SCMP, Beijing has secretly pushed Tehran to limit the number of attacks in the Red Sea. China has its only foreign naval station in Djibouti. The Indian Navy declared that it would establish a new naval facility close to the Maldives as it started to remove its maritime contingent from the islands. The Navy said that the new facility, which opened on March 6 on the Lakshadweep Islands in India, will convert an existing small detachment into an independent naval unit. The new naval facility on the island of Minicoy is the closest point between the Maldives and the Indian Lakshadweep Islands, roughly 130 kilometers north of each other. China is investing heavily in ports to increase its influence. China is rapidly growing its influence in the Indian Ocean region, IOR, through significant port investments, according to a commentary posted in August of last year on the Indian Council of Global Relations, ICGR, Gateway House website. Chinese state-owned enterprises are developing about 17 ports throughout the Indian Ocean region, ranging in size from smaller investments of $78 million in Djibouti to larger ones like $1.6 billion in Gwadar, Pakistan. One such port is Darwin Harbour in Australia, which was leased for 99 years in 2015 and has an estimated $390 million invested by a Chinese company with ties to the government. These ports will serve as China's important strategic, economic, and political outposts, according to a Gateway House article. The year is a significant component of China's Maritime Silk Road program. It is a strategically and economically important region since it supplies 80% of China's energy imports and is necessary for China's commerce operations. Chinese investment and construction activities in the year have grown during the last 3 decades. According to Saeed Fardi, a research intern at ICGR, ports have become important sites of strategic, economic, and political investments for China in this context. One crucial actor in the Indian Ocean is the Maldives. Associate Professor Dhananjay Tripathi, chair of the Department of International Relations at South Asian University in New Delhi, contends that the Maldives is a significant factor in the Indian Ocean and is putting itself in a position to gain from the competition between China and India in its neighborhood. He continues by saying that the claim that President Morsi is a pro-China leader is not entirely accurate. It overlooks the fundamental intensity of the Sino-India rivalry in the area, Tripathi writes in a piece that appears on Australia's 360 Info website. China is wary of the growing defence cooperation between India and the West, while tensions on the China-India border in the Himalayas remain high. India is concerned about China's expanding presence in South Asia. A more extensive political battle between China and India. He forecasts a more comprehensive political struggle between the two dominant Asian nations in the Indian Ocean, probably not exclusive to the Maldives alone. He mentions that the Malacca Straits and the western Indian Ocean are connected by a toll gate. The sea lanes near the Maldives carry more than half of India's external trade and 80% of its energy imports. 80% of China's crude oil imports from the Gulf go via the Strait of Malacca and the Indian Ocean. China has made significant investments in its navy, emphasizing the Indian Ocean, anticipating a potential scenario where an adversary blocks the maritime lanes. Beijing is particularly concerned about Indian and American influence in the Indian Ocean. It appears to be the belief that things would get more challenging if the Indo-US cooperation were to develop, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. China has attempted to strengthen its strategic position in the Indian Ocean because it is aware of these possible threats, according to Tripathi. It now commands a strong presence at strategically important ports, like Hambantota in Sri Lanka and Gwadar in Pakistan. India will strengthen its standing with Sagar. The Forum on Development and Cooperation between China and the Indian Ocean region was established in 2022. More than 350 delegates from 30 nations attended its second gathering in 2023, focusing on boosting sustainable blue economy to build together a maritime community with a shared future. India has adopted a two-pronged policy to protect its interests in light of China's strategic expansion, which it has taken seriously. In 2015, India introduced the Security and Growth for All in the Region (SAGAR) project to strengthen its position in the region. Tripathi claims that the Sagar plan encourages all Indian Ocean nations to abide by international maritime laws and standards to foster an atmosphere of openness and trust and strengthen maritime cooperation to settle naval disputes amicably. Associate Professor Jabin Jacob, Adjunct Research Fellow at the National Maritime Foundation in India, makes these points, citing previous Indian development and economic support to Sri Lanka and Mauritius and its ongoing development aid to the Maldives under Mutsu. He claims it is incorrect to interpret India's strategy as only reacting to China's Belt and Road Initiative through its development projects. In a column published by 360.org, he states that Indian foreign policy in its neighborhood has always been to support its neighbors in their development objectives. This acknowledges that India is compelled to confront the effects of the underdevelopment and political or economic instability in the region, which eventually seeps into India.